Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special show on Rhino Radio. My name is Orr, and happy holidays, everyone. For this very interesting holiday season, I thought I'll bring a very interesting friend of mine. I would love to welcome to this conversation Reverend David Butterworth. He is a minister with the Methodist Church of Britain. Hello, David.
Hi, or good to be with you.
Thank you very much for joining me. Um,
Pleasure.
I, I want to, before we start the conversation, I want to introduce the conversation to both yourself and our lovely listeners. Even though I've just introduced you as a minister of the Methodist Church of Britain, we're also friends. Can I say that? Can
Of
I
course.
blame you for that, for our friendship with me? Um, Obviously, you are a man of faith, and we will go into the definition as well, but it's not going to be a faithful discussion per se. Obviously, at least one of us will touch on the faithful side of life, but we want to talk about how it is to be alive in our world right now around this should be joyous season, but it's not necessarily joyous to everyone. So we want to accept that. We want to touch on tools. We want to touch on how we interact with that. Obviously, faith will come into that as well, but it's not um, putting people off by being not of faith or only inviting people that are of faith. We want to have a discussion with everyone. We want to present a few levels on that spectrum. And that's why I'm really happy to have David with me. First of all, for representing somewhere on that spectrum, but also interacting with so many faiths, of so many non-faiths as well, and being open to so many ways of life. So you can share some of that knowledge with us and help us with a very interesting period of our life. So again,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much for joining me today, David.
Pleasure.
As we said, it is a holiday season. It's not just Christmas that is happening technically tonight, tomorrow morning. We will touch on that as well, that in different cultures that celebrate Christmas, it is different as well. But I want to start with you, David. Um, Wherever you want to start, whether it's your childhood or today or even anything around that, what is Christmas or holiday season, winter season for you?
Winter season, let's start with that, is like I think is so beautiful. I love the part of the seasons where you come into the winter when the fields are barren and all the leaves have fallen off the trees, and you can go on a lovely country walk if you're able to walk, and just go through all the mud and the puddles. And in years ago, I'd love jumping over the ditches and lots of things like that. Now I go on more steady walks, but I love to see the changing seasons. And I when I was you mentioned when I was a child. When I was a child, I loved in school when the teachers asked us to do lino cuts and lino printing. I don't know if you ever encountered that, but it's where you draw a picture on a piece of lino, then you scoop out the lines of the branches of the trees, and then you can put ink on it and then print it onto a piece of paper. And you get sort of a black and white or a green and white or red and white. Um, and it looks so magnificently beautiful through a child's eyes. And I still like line drawings now. And I've got happy memories of then coming back from a walk and coming back into a house which is warm and welcoming, and not a word I would have used in my childhood now, but now I reflect. It's like coming back into a sanctuary of love, where you're safe and comfortable.
Well, I remember that a few years ago we had a Christmaka dinner. You remember that?
I do. I do. We could have had a Christmas meal, but I just love people from everywhere, and I want to be as hospitable as possible. And even a Christmaka meal could have been like wider, but um, because I knew you and other people, I wanted to show that I was open to different ways of thinking, and and just celebrate somebody else's life pattern and culture and ethnicity and belief. To say, hey, come for dinner. This is an open door, and everybody is welcome to the table.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I do not come from a Christian family. I do not come even from a Christian country. So to me, everything was brand new. And instead of judging it, comparing it, we both decided to just enjoy the differences, start a discussion, and obviously celebrate the food, which is always nice. So with our limited knowledge, we decided to call it Chrismica, but it could have
Yeah,
been Christmas, Kwanzaa, or anything in between.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
celebrating whoever wanted to share with us.
yeah,
Just to point out the fact that we are aware of the fact that our knowledge is limited at every single point of our existence. So if someone's going to teach us something new and correct us or just expose us to a new culture, we will definitely not say no and hear as much as that person is willing to share. And if there is food included, we'll be there for days. So be warned, if you
yeah,
invite us for a learning session with food, we're going to probably need somewhere to put our head at the end.
yeah. And before Christmas and Hanukkah, I'd been to lots of open iftar meals and just loved being with Muslim men and women and children, celebrating their beautiful time of year and being privileged that they invite me to that table. It would often be a table on the floor with beautiful cloths on the floor, and you try and sit cross-legged if you were able to do that. And that welcoming presence pervades through everything that my Muslim friends do, and my Jewish friends invite us to the synagogues and say, come and be part of the family. And so those labels that sometimes the popular world try to put on people of faith are not there in many different ways. It should be a label on our chests or near our hearts somewhere that says, welcome everybody, welcome to everybody and anybody.
Do you have a specific Christmas tradition that just keeps on coming back, whether it's watching a film or a specific song, or obviously there's the unwrapping of the presents? Anything specific that you
Yeah.
do, whether it's watching Home Alone or Love Actually?
I don't watch all of both of those. I have seen them. They're not my films of choice. The thing I try to do at Christmas is, and now I'm going to contradict myself because this has been a very painful year for a lot of people, and I've encouraged people to show their emotions. But um, being a minister, sometimes publicly, I do show my emotions. I do break into tears, and as I'm reading something, whether it's a eulogy or a scriptural reading for this time of the year, I do feel a tear start to trickle down my cheek. And so I encourage people to cry and show emotion, but I try not to be overly emotional because Christmas for me conjoins lots of different memories over the years of family no longer with us, of occasions that are past and can never be recreated. Um, the Christmas meal will stay with me forever because it was so beautiful with people from different backgrounds. There was yourself and me and a Buddhist friend and others. And so I try to do something that's inclusive and say welcome to everybody. Just this morning, the lady next door to where I live rang the doorbell, and they're a Muslim family. They're absolutely delightful, and they brought a Christmas present. What can be better than that? And the other neighbours in my neighbourhood are Muslim families on both sides and opposite, and we exchange gifts. And not that it's about the gift, but it's about recognizing somebody's beautiful humanity and saying, "You matter. I care for you." And in that we make ourselves vulnerable. And at Christmas, I find that I feel vulnerable myself in my sense of emotion and things that I yearned for in the past that can no longer be there except in memory, and that I yearn for things for my friends and my family, so that they're surrounded by peace and goodwill and well-being. And this year we're surrounded by COVID and distances and being a sense of feeling disenfranchised. And yeah, it's been a really awful year for a lot of people.
I want to share an experience that I had, again, as a non-Christian person. A few years ago, um, because Christmas, obviously not this year, per se, but previous years it took a lot of people back to their families, back to their friends, but all of a sudden the city became almost empty. So me not making a big deal out of Christmas and the need to be with family and friends, but I felt very much alone just because all the families got together. So I want to touch on that, especially on this year's occasion, where even if you had plans on meeting with your family, then you might not be allowed to do that. So I kind of want to touch on the fact that you need to celebrate the fact that you are lucky enough to be with your family on Christmas this year, but also be mindful of the ones that cannot, whether it's because you're not of that faith or because of the restrictions that just prohibit you right now from either traveling or because you're so mindful of the health of your loved ones that you decide to distance yourself and put yourself in a different mental health situation that we want to touch on later. But that's kind of going to end our first segment of the show, but also introducing the next segments where we want to talk about, as much as we enjoy celebrating either faith or holidays or any ethnicity and culture around that, but we also want to be mindful of the things around that, especially this year. So I think that's some sort of a positive touching on the negative side of our show for tonight.
Yeah, it's positive, and actually, or I would like to challenge that word negative. It's not negative. It's touching on the reality of the situation we find ourselves in.
Challenging.
Yeah, like extremely profoundly challenging, and let not anyone at all delude himself or herself or ourselves that this ain't a difficult year. This is profoundly life-changing year.
Yeah, so before we listen to a song and move on to our next segment, I just want to again point out the fact that we are trying to add joy to this interesting time, but we're also trying to give more tools to accept those challenges and continue push through them until we're all safe and going back to our old reality that we miss so much. So we're going to try and add a bit of merriment to this discussion, but also accept the fact that it might be difficult to others, and we're going to touch on that as well. So again, David, thank you very much for joining me. We're going to have a listen to one holiday song and then come back and continue this discussion.
Wonderful.